So there is this narrative going on online right now saying that Doom the Dark Ages is actually failing in a considerable way compared to Doom Eternal. And it's one of those situations when you first look at the numbers, you're like, wow, that is significantly lower than previous examples. But I do believe there are external factors at play, and when you kind of sit there and actually kind of break down and look into the information, you kind of start understanding where the success of Doom the Dark Ages is coming in right now. And this would kind of line up with what we're seeing right now when it comes to the reviews, at least on Steam alone. As you can see, the original Doom at 94%, Doom Eternal at 90%, but Doom the Dark Ages is at 84% on Steam. But we know that Steam isn't the be-all, end-all when it comes to critic numbers. As we can see right here, Doom the Dark Ages over here on Metacritic is currently scoring an 85. That's a pretty solid score. On OpenCritic, we have a top critic score of 86 and a recommended score of 96. And yes, we do have to take a look at how IGN rated it. Say what you will, IGN scores are generally always looked at when it comes to overall ratings, and they give it a 9 out of 10 amazing score. So with it being very well received in 5 years since the last Doom game, you'd expect a lot of people to be really excited to jump in and play this game, which certainly has been the case to a certain degree. Very well, like I said, very well received and people have been playing it, but maybe not as many people as we expected. As reported here on the Gamer website here is saying that Doom the Dark Ages Day 1 suffered significantly on one platform versus Doom Eternal. And while most player numbers are hidden, you could probably assume which platform we're talking about here. And that platform being Steam. As you can see, this is pretty much the only place where you get true actual raw data of understanding like the popularity of a game. And it's showing right here that within the first month of this game being out, peak all-time player count is at 31,000, which is not too shabby of a number. But when you compare that number to its predecessor, Doom Eternal, that's where things start to get a little different, because its peak all-time player count was 104,000 players, which is roughly a 70% decrease from game to game, which is something you don't like to see. You usually want to see those numbers going up, not down, which certainly led to the internet trolls out here to make their own narratives, such as Grums, one of the most negative people in the entire world, I'd say, saying the weekend numbers of Doom the Dark Ages not looking good, comparing to Space Marine 2, which hit over 200,000 in peak concurrent player count. So seeing things like a big number go down, people start freaking out, making up their own narratives online. I just feel like this is one of those stories where, like, yeah, it looks bad on surface level, but when you actually stop to think about it, there's a reason why things are the way they are. And if anything, this might be one of the better releases for a Doom game. But of course, it's so early to tell exactly what the true numbers are right now when it comes to sales and performance and things like that, but we'll find out soon enough. Because, you know, Microsoft is going to want to counter this narrative that's going around online right now, and I think they have the data to truly showcase that, especially with the recent showcase of the earnings call from Xbox, which was incredibly positive, which I think really leads to the true reason why the player counts that we're seeing for Doom the Dark Ages being lower than even Doom 2016 and especially Doom Eternal. And there are two big reasons why I think we're seeing this right now. The biggest factor to play into why Doom Eternal succeeded so well, where Doom the Dark Ages seemed to not be able to capture that success, is because one major factor, if we compare it to different time frames right now, is that Doom Eternal released in 2020. This was a game released peak pandemic. I believe this was March of 2020 when the game released. And like, we were all stuck indoors, not really able to do much at the time. So everyone was just kind of playing a lot of video games, and therefore you'd have more people given an opportunity to then play the game. You can see also when it comes to the Doom 2016 numbers, we also saw this massive increase in gaming just in general across the industry as a whole. That's why we're seeing so many games nowadays, like especially live service games from publishers who banked on this growth of 2020 success to continue on so that they can continue raking in a ton of money. But it turns out what happened is that a lot of people who played games back then just kind of went back to their normal scheduled lives. And a lot of publishers have been dealing with those consequences of making that decision to double down on their gaming aspects and have been really struggling, especially in the AAA industry. And of course, we have to talk about the biggest change that happened between Doom Eternal and Doom the Dark Ages, and it's the fact that Microsoft bought Bethesda and ZeniMax, and Dark Ages is on Game Pass now. And we've definitely seen it online with actual data from Microsoft as well, showcasing that people are willing to make that jump from their favorite platform, which dragging people from Steam is a really big ask for a lot of these developers to try to have that type of success. But what's one way you can have it so then people would play on your platform compared to one of the most popular, if not the most popular, delivery service of PC games compared to Steam, and that would be making the game more accessible and cheaper. And the best way to do that is with Game Pass. And Xbox recently flexed some really good numbers about Game Pass recently when it comes to their earnings call over here, reported by Jez Corden and many others out there. I made a video, I believe, on this previously, saying PC Game Pass hits 45% year-over-year growth. That is a massive change, with the biggest drivers of that huge boom of Game Pass users from Call of Duty and Minecraft. So we didn't get the exact numbers of how that whole breakdown is when it comes to who got the most percentage of boosts, but mainly Minecraft and Call of Duty. But seeing that huge boost from Call of Duty really does showcase that people are willing to jump platform if you make it enticing enough, because Call of Duty has been known to be like a PlayStation game. Because for years, PlayStation has done exclusive deals and been basically kind of tilting putting the thumb on their scale, tilting their favor to where people buy Call of Duty on PlayStation with like exclusive content and deals and things like that. It's just kind of built itself up that way, especially with PlayStation users, I think being like 3 times as many compared to Xbox players. Therefore, making it so then a lot of people just kept buying the game on PlayStation. But seeing people making that shift over from, say, PlayStation or Steam on PC to play on Game Pass really shows that, like, the power of Game Pass, really. Oh, and don't forget the Doom the Dark Ages is also on PlayStation, and it was cited right here that was the same report we're talking about here, saying Microsoft also said that it is now the biggest publisher on PlayStation in terms of pre-orders and pre-installations. This is likely in part thanks to Indiana Jones, Forza Horizon 5, and Doom the Dark Ages, as we just talked about. Though I can't really deny these numbers that we're getting right now from Doom the Dark Ages. When you look on the most played games on Xbox's website here, you can see that the top 5 right here, top 10, 15, and at 20th we have Doom the Dark Ages. And honestly, maybe Microsoft might have shot themselves a little bit in the foot when it comes to having as much success as possible for Doom the Dark Ages. As Claire Obscure Expedition 33, which is going to be one of the best games of the year contender type of game here, just recently released on the 24th, and it's a rather sizable game. And just before that, on the 22nd, you had the remaster of Oblivion, which you can see on Xbox's website is still more popular than the brand new Doom the Dark Ages. So as you can tell, there are multiple factors at play right now when it comes to measuring the success of Doom the Dark Ages. It's not as clear-cut as it used to be, just not even like 5 years ago, that you can tell the clear difference between the success of Doom Eternal and Doom the Dark Ages, where Doom the Dark Ages' success is much more muddy, a little bit more obscured when it comes to how it used to be when before this huge acquisition, before the advancements of Game Pass. And honestly, I would say another thing to take in consideration, that this is the 3rd Doom game, as in, like, we've kind of experienced what Doom is to have to offer for everyone, right? There really isn't much in the way of like excitingly differently things, right? Like, Doom fans are gonna be playing this Doom game for sure. And the gameplay has mixed up a little bit. It maybe slowed down a little bit. The stand your ground kind of maneuvering that they have instead of like the Doom Eternal kind of fast, snappy, almost aerial type movements like you had in that game. Like, it's all kind of down to like really minute personal preferences within the community. We're talking about gaming as a whole when it comes to the popularity of this game. And generally, a lot of times when it comes to games like this, like maybe the popularity won't be as high as, say, like the previous editions, just because it has like that diminishing returns where like people are like, okay, it's another Doom game, and that's kind of how it looks, and you know, honestly, kind of how it plays a little bit. Obviously, there are its clear differences for Doom fans and people who have played previously, but for the most part, it plays kind of like how 2016 did and how Doom Eternal did, but just for some minor changes to kind of mix it up and make it so it's not just the same game over again. And the reason I bring that up is because, again, with Grums, I hate referencing him, but you know, I did bring up saying Space Marine 2 hit over 200K, and it was on Xbox, it was on PlayStation, and it was on PC. But of course, the last Space Marine game was like back in 2011, dude. There'd be a much more hype around Space Marine 2 than it would be against Doom the Dark Ages, which is kind of expected to happen. But ultimately, why does all of this even matter? Why do people obsess about player counts and numbers so much when it comes to these games? Well, I think one is just because Doom, especially in this type of franchise, is a franchise that we really care about. It's a game that we want to see succeed, and if this game doesn't do well, then given the state of modern gaming industry for the AAA side of things, that one game can make and break a complete franchise, where if one game fails, well, then there's not going to be another one for quite some time until you can lean on nostalgia, kind of like what Bethesda's doing, say, with like the next Skyrim type game. And yes, Doom the Dark Ages numbers so far right now are much lower than Eternal ever were, and probably about the same. I say at that point, you're kind of splitting hairs when it comes to 2016. So I would just have to say that like obsessing over these numbers exactly when it comes to trying to understand like what the industry is doing right now, I think will just kind of make you lose your mind, because eventually you try diving in, try dissecting numbers and try to infer what other companies are doing and the success of other things and try to bring in numbers from different locations. Eventually you kind of just start losing track of what the real narrative of like the experience of what a game can really be. And right now that narrative for Doom the Dark Ages is that it's a really good Doom game. Is it the best Doom game? That's up for interpretation. Most people are saying maybe not the best, but like slightly not up there compared to Doom Eternal or even 2016, but still highly recommending that you play the game. So I think it could be partially just people trying to find that negative narrative when it comes to just gaming media in general, as it would generate more clicks and interest from people. Partially why I wanted to make a video about this, kind of negating the negative news that's going around and kind of really trying to break it down rather than just trying to make catchy headlines for people to go like, oh my god, Xbox is failing, Game Pass is going down the dumpster, Doom, is this going to be the last Doom game? Oh my goodness. But all we really can do is just download the games, play them. If you want to enjoy it, enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then don't play it. But right now, for what we're seeing for Doom the Dark Ages, that people are enjoying it, and it's a really good Doom game. And while keeping an ear to the ground when it comes to gaming news and information like this is super important, right? We want to make sure that we know like what our favorite franchises are doing and what's the success of the platforms, because like I said earlier, the AAA gaming is in such a volatile state right now that they're really trying to figure out like how can a game like this be financially viable, or how can Xbox move forward as a publisher to really succeed in this new type of world where we're seeing so many AA games really step up and be like the best games for you to jump out there and play, and AAA really kind of struggling to maintain that quality. But really just don't get lost in the sauce, just jump in, have some fun, play the games, and if you keep jumping in and playing the games, then, you know, those game companies will keep trying to make those games to keep you jumping in and playing, spending more money. If you made it this far in the video, I hope you earned your like, maybe even a subscribe. If you want to stay up to date with other gaming news or I missed any content from me recently, check out these videos right here. Thank you all for watching, greatly appreciate it. Catch you on the next one. Peace out.